Hi, guys. Welcome to a very exciting episode of this podcast that we have not recorded an episode for since 2021. This is Rachel, and I'm also with Sarah, my twin, who's going to say hello.
Hi, everybody.
We're kind of out of practice recording together, so you have to forgive us, but we're finally bringing back Double Spaced, which is a podcast on writing hosted by two twins. And like I said, we haven't made an episode in literally 3 years, but we thought it would be fun to kind of come back and make another episode, kind of give you updates on where we're at, and also to reintroduce you a bit to Sarah. So a bit of a lowdown on the podcast. If you're not aware, there is one single episode that we put out on verbs. It's a really long episode though. It's like an hour long. If you haven't listened to it already, where we literally talked about verbs. And basically we're just talking as twins about writing because we're twins who are writers. And yeah, so you'll be able to listen to this podcast either on YouTube, and you might actually be listening to it on there right now, which is on Rachel Writes on YouTube, or you can listen to it on Spotify, which all of that information will be in the YouTube description if you would prefer to listen to it on Spotify. But if you're listening on Spotify, hello. But I'm Rachel. Me and Sarah sound quite similar. I probably sound more enthusiastic than Sarah does, not to like drag. Oh my god, that was like so rude. Anyways, so obviously I'm Rachel. I do lots of writing, content, blah, 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 blah. So we don't really have to talk about me, but I wanted to talk to Sarah as well, introduce her, and kind of, I don't know what you want to say about yourself.
Well, I'm Rachel's twin sister. Um, we are both writers. We started writing at the same time. So that's basically it. There's nothing.
I love how the intro is like, I'm related to you and we have been writing for the same amount of time. Yeah, I would say so as well. So that's true. Sarah and I have been writing for the same amount of time. And so this episode is really just going to be like an introductory kind of get to know us and also answer some of your questions. Because I think last year, might have been actually in 2022, I put out a community post on YouTube for you guys to like send questions for this episode. And then like we never recorded it in typical fashion for us. But the good thing was all of those questions were still there. So we're going to be kind of talking about being twins, being writers, etc. So if that's kind of interesting to you, keep listening. But anyways, I wanted to sort of start out by talking about kind of what we're working on, but mostly like kind of getting to know Sarah a little bit because you guys are probably already familiar with me, Rachel, who is speaking. I feel like we need to like remind people, though. I feel like it's kind of obvious.
I'm not sure.
I feel like it's obvious.
I can tell the difference.
Because sometimes like I can't tell the difference. Like I'm listening to like my videos and like I'm like, oh, that sounds just like Sarah. Like I thought that was Sarah. So you're gonna have to be the judge, the people who are listening to this. But I mean, welcome to the podcast where twins sound the exact same. Anyways, so in terms of kind of what you have been up to, we can either alternate between kind of what I'm working on, if that's easier for you to then like jump off of, and then what you're working on. But we haven't talked to you in like 3 years. So maybe that's a good, like, what were you doing like in those 3 years from 2021 to 2024? Because like they know what I was doing.
Yeah. So I was finishing up my degree in writing, and I actually had taken quite a long break from personal writing. But for about the last year, I've been writing a fun project, just a personal project for myself that I think I had always wanted to write. And it's similar to Rachel's project, Seventh Virtue, for anybody who knows about that, where she sort of adapted her book and her characters into a new fantasy world. And that's just a personal project she's been working on. So that's what I've done for myself. And that book is called Vacant Red. And so I've been writing that for quite a bit now. And it's really cool because it incorporates a lot of the ideas that I had come up with when I was 13, nearly 10 years ago. And it's kind of essentially the project I wish I would have hoped to have written when I was that young. So it's really exciting. And this last year has really been about me relearning my writing process for myself, and finding joy out of my writing practice. And so it's been very important to me the last little while of getting back into a writing routine. And writing a lot more frequently, because when I was in school, it's kind of difficult to keep up with personal writing for me. And so I didn't really get to work on my projects as frequently. And I actually had sort of lost interest a little bit in writing for myself. And so, anyways, that's what I've been up to the last year at least. The other two were just degree related.
Yeah, and that's so interesting because like we had like different like the quite a different experience like the last 3 years in terms of like how our writing worked and like you kind of getting into it like after graduating or whatever. And then when you said it was like a year like that you've been working on a baking brand, I was like, oh my gosh, it's been like a year since we were in school. Um anyway, so where I was like kind of just like doing a whole bunch of things because that's like just kind of how I am. And then Sarah was taking a different approach and now she's writing like this really good book that we have been kind of reading together. And you said something about like what you wanted, like it's kind of like what you wanted to write when you were 13 or whatever. Cause like this is our 10th year. Like we started writing in the same year, 10 years ago. Actually, next month for me, it might be like almost like June for Sarah, I think she was saying. And then I think it's May for me. So we started writing pretty much at the exact same time. And so I think that's really cool that we've had this like 10-year long like journey to also, I don't know, just see our writing develop. And then yesterday we were watching The Rewrite, right? With Hugh Grant, right? Terrible movie. But it was good. It was good at the same time. But we've been watching a whole bunch of Hugh Grant rom-coms. There was a quote in the movie. I can't remember. Hugh Grant was quoting somebody else. So it wasn't actually what he said in the movie about like how there's something about writing and how like it's basically like just the story that you've been like trying to like excite like your inner like 11-year-old, like the person you were when you were 11. Anyway, so I thought that was interesting. So it's not quite the same age, but it's a similar age, like 13, I think 12, 13. We started at 12.
12, yeah.
Wow. Anyways, so I thought that was kind of interesting because we've had, I don't know, so much time to like not only develop as like people and sisters and twins, but also as writers. And then to see you kind of come back kind of full circle is kind of nice. So the project that you're writing, I don't know if you want to talk about kind of like what it's about. If I know I did not prep you for that.
Ooh, do I even know what it's about?
I can help.
Maybe you could explain it.
Okay,
for me.
so can I like mention the characters?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, I have no idea how old Nell is, but Sarah was writing like a really cool literary fiction project, which we don't have to talk about right now. But she has, like she was mentioning, like spin-offified it, just like how I've done on, you know, with my books or with my characters, into like genre fiction. And so it basically follows the narrator of that literary fiction, which some people listening to this might actually know about. I'm not going to talk about it because we don't have to, but some people listening might recognize the characters. But it follows Nell, who I think is like what? 21. Oh.
Maybe. I don't really know.
Oh, love that. Real. Okay. So follows Nell, who has been like taken against her will, like with her best friend Hawthorne, are taken from, they're like living in like post-apocalypse, right? Like Wastelandia, because there's been like a plague and everybody is dead. Like most people, like it's not great. Like it's probably like a bit post-apocalyptic-y, right? So Nell and her best friend Hawthorne are like randomly one day while they're just trying to live their normal lives, like kidnapped, and they're taken to this like kind of like underground community that like they did not know existed. And yeah, a whole bunch of other things happen, but like
That's the gist of it.
I think so. It's kind of like, I think it's dystopian, like it's probably adult dystopian.
It's dystopian-ish.
Yeah.
Because the original, well, the project that I had adapted this from my literary book was actually adapted from a YA dystopian book. So
cool.
There's been a huge, like, the characters have jumped across multiple projects in different genres. So this book is kind of like the dystopian I had been writing when I was a teenager. But it's, I think, an adult book that incorporates some form of, I don't know, post-apocalyptic feel with some dystopian, and there's magic and yeah.
We're just doing what we want.
Yeah.
Basically.
It's a personal book.
What I love about it is like Sarah said, like this is literally a project that was adapted off of an adaptation, which is so cool. Like,
I know.
I think that's so cool. But then also like to be able to see like the original original version of it kind of shine through has been very fun.
Yes.
So like, I don't know, like you're like 70,000 words into the draft.
Yes.
She's been working really hard on it, and it's been so nice because like it's nice to like finally both like be working on something at the same time and being able to swap writing or whatever. It's been very fun to sort of like reconnect with that process. So we had a couple of questions, which I realized I've been talking for so long. We need to get to these questions. So the first question a lot of people were curious about. Several people asked this, and I kind of tried to like put it into one question. So for everybody who was curious, the first question was, as twins, do you write similar stories, either in genre, theme, styles, or your tastes, for example? So I had some notes that we were writing down where we both noted that we like write typically like kind of long, sprawling narratives and like prose. And then, it also helps that when you're a twin, you end up having your kind of built-in favorite writer, right? So for me, I feel like we were talking about this just a second ago. Like, in terms of similarities, like, yeah, because we write the same genre, like, overarching, because you still write literary fiction, I write literary fiction. We also have our little genre side projects or whatever, too. Or in, our cases, like, kind of our main projects right now. So I think they're similar in genre, but we were talking about how they're not at all similar in terms of, like, what we write about, because, like, people that are fans of my channel and fans of my writing, and this is Rachel talking, would know, like, I write a lot about love and heartbreak, and I write a lot about like queer people and messy relationships, and Sarah doesn't really write like sort of similar things. Like, you don't write as much, like, you don't write heartbreak.
No, it's just family relationships typically.
Yeah.
Is usually what I write about.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Like, we are not drawn to the same things at all. When in terms of like, even like our short stories, I'm thinking about like stuff that you submitted for class or whatever. So different to what I write. Like, yeah, mine are mostly like romantic relationships, and you mostly focus on platonic relationships.
Yeah.
That is so cool. So like, in terms of theme, and it's not really similar, but genre, like, yeah, obviously. And then dystopian I don't write anymore, but like, I wouldn't be opposed to it. Like, if we come up with an idea, like, I'm not opposed to it. And then like writing style, is our writing similar at all? I think that I'm like drawn right now to writing that isn't so like flowery on the line, not to use that word because it's so vague, but like not so like I don't know, I don't want to say overly descriptive actually, because I really do like writing. I do like writing like that's like that, but I'm kind of drawn to like simpler writing that's still detailed, but like not in like a hyper poetic way.
Yeah, I think a couple weeks ago I was noting how I write with a lot more fragments than you in terms of style. I don't know, I've noticed that I've been doing that a lot to help me get through this draft. But our writing is quite detailed. That's similar in terms of the amount of detail.
We definitely write more detail than it's sort of like expected.
Even though Rachel's style can be kind of sparer in that the use of its detail, it's still very detailed, and so that's a similarity.
Your writing is more reflective, and mine is also more snappy. Like, I don't really spend that much time in my characters' heads anymore.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot more. It feels very immediate. Your writing is I think I take quite a bit to get into a scene and then to leave that scene.
Yeah, you also write past tense mostly, and I don't.
Yes, like our point of views are different too.
Very different.
I write in exclusively first person.
And I pretty much exclusively write in third person present tense now.
No, I find it really difficult to branch into different points of view, so I've been writing first person past with some sort of retrospection in it for the last few years.
And that's like in my top 2 point of views. Like, my favorite, obviously, it's third person, but first person retrospective comes in close. And then someone asked, how much of your stories do you share with each other? And this was also interesting because I feel like over the last couple of years, it's kind of like, because we always share everything, but like, because we were like busy with school, it was kind of harder to be like, oh, like, let's read all the time or whatever. So though typically, I mean, like, Sarah out of everybody is usually the only person who's read pretty much everything I've written. At this point, though, I'm surprised there is a lot of my writing that you haven't read.
I'm behind on a few projects.
There are a lot because I've written a lot of things, and then also I haven't edited them, so then I haven't.
Rachel writes a lot.
I do. But yeah, typically I'll send her everything. At least like the big projects, like she's always gonna get those. There might be like little things that there's a poem I want you to read that I don't think you've read yet.
Yeah, sometimes. Well, we used to read each other our personal writing like every night.
That's something people probably don't know, because when we shared a room when we were kids, we would always pretty much every night, because we used to write all the time. We would read whatever we wrote that day.
Yeah.
So if somebody wrote 4,000 words that day, you bet your bun we were reading 4,000 words that night. And it was so fun. We just used to read it out loud. And like, that's probably why I like listening to my work out loud so much, because we used to we used to read it so much, like out loud.
Yeah, but I will admit that I don't read. I'm behind on quite a few of your projects. I haven't gotten myself caught up.
Well, she's almost done Changing States, which is novella number 3, the ones that I was working on last year. And so you're almost done. You're pretty much done. Like, really, there's nothing left. There's nothing left in that book. Like, you're good. But typically it's mostly everything. So we're kind of lucky in that way. And like, if there was anything like I wasn't sure about, I would just send it to her anyway and be like, I'm not sure about that. Like, it's not like we don't hide writing or whatever. Like, no. I love sharing with you. So, there's another question here. Are there certain elements of writing Sarah is better at? And then sort of a part 2 to the question, do you ever struggle with comparison? So in terms of like certain elements, I mean, I've always thought Sarah was a better writer than me. Like from the beginning, I just think like you have a really great way of like, I don't know, like your style has always been very nice. I remember when we were kids, I was like, oh, Sarah's like so good at description or whatever.
No, but I think I've always thought you were better than me.
But I don't think of it in like a bad way. No. Like I don't think of
not
it
in
like,
a comparison.
Yeah, it's not to answer the comparison section. Like I don't really feel bad like when I read Sarah's writing and I'm like, oh, this is so good. Oh no.
Yeah, but we were just talking about it, like our genre personal projects that we're both working on right now. They we write them differently.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's because I'm not working on any literary projects at the time, or kind of simultaneously, whereas Rachel's been writing her novellas and poems and all of these different things. And so my writing in my book right now is quite dense and very description heavy, whereas Rachel is very it's more centered on the action. It's a bit more fluid in the sense that it moves faster.
Yeah, we were also talking, like, the process is so different. Like, I don't edit my writing when I'm writing the genre fiction, because when I'm writing Sunless Ground, like, I don't care. Like, it's supposed to be, like, a fun exploration. It's, like, a lot about, like, sort of, like, the volume of work, just to sort of, like, practice the muscle, kind of try different things. It's not really serious. Like when I was writing Seventh Virtue, it was more serious because I wasn't writing other things. But now that I'm writing other things, like I don't think of, like, it's not supposed to be like a writing thing. Like it's more entertaining. And I mean, I find the actual act of like constructing sentences, that's fun too. But the whole point isn't like, because when I'm reading Sarah's book, for example, I'm like, this writing is so good. And like, so what we'll do now, we don't like read our work out loud with each other anymore, which is, maybe we should, but like I feel like I don't have the stamina for that.
I know.
I don't know how we did that.
It would take a long time.
I literally read like 7,000 words straight. Remember that one time I
remember
read 7,000 words in one day? How did we do that? Anyways, so because we're not doing that, what we're doing now is like doing little like cozy reading sessions where we like get each other's books up or whatever, and we like read like a chapter and a chapter. And so it's so interesting because I'll read Sarah's book and be like, oh my god, this writing is so good. And then I've sent her Sunless Ground and I'm like, I didn't even edit that.
No, but what I like about it is there's a lot more happening. My book is really basically still in its introduction.
And that's valid. Like a 70,000 word introduction is delicious. Like that's the kind of genre fiction that I like.
It's a space for me to be self-indulgent in the writing.
Right.
Because I'm not writing something that is, I'm planning to publish or that I want to polish to be its own thing.
Yeah.
And so this is the project that I'm,
But that's where it's like, yeah, it's like you can't like really compare the projects because they're so different. They have different purposes or whatever. So I don't really feel too bad.
But I would say that if we flip the question, you're definitely better at writing short stories than I am.
Maybe I was. I don't remember how to do that.
Well, your short stories are my favorite, so.
I love the way that you kind of approach writing. I think I'm a bit more like rushy when it comes to writing. I like that you could take your time with it and then like, I don't know, you pick up details in a way that is very beautiful and like your similes, metaphors, like those are the ones that I would write down, like the earrings one. You know, I'm always talking about that one from that poem. If you watch some of my live streams, you would know what I'm talking about. But I think maybe I don't know if we struggled with comparison more before, but now that our like writing is at different places, like, I don't think about that at all anymore.
Yeah, I'm not really sure even when we were younger, if
No,
I
not
had
really.
a comparison.
We're kind of lucky. It's not that we've never struggled with comparison, because we definitely have. So I'm kind of surprised that it didn't like extend to the writing. Oh, speaking of relationships and like being surprised by things, how do you manage to be critique partners as twins? How do you keep your writing and your relationship separate? For example, like, you know, do you struggle with comparison there? And I think this question came from a twin who was like, I couldn't imagine. Yeah, anyways, like we don't struggle, I don't think, so much with like struggling to be kind of critique partners or feeling like, oh, we're attacking each other or whatever, because Sarah kind of approaches critique with so much grace. And like I was telling her, it's been a while since we last like critiqued anything really from each other. So I don't know, maybe we'll like maybe we'll be at each other's throats now. But I don't think so. I mean,
No.
we've always been very like generous with the other person's writing, because I mean, like, it's fun. Like, it's fun writing, and then also like I like her character, she likes mine.
Yeah, they sort of have all developed at
Oh,
the
yeah.
same time, and so
Are mine a little older than yours?
a little bit, yeah.
Aw, how much older?
Well, yours was October 2014.
Mhm.
Mine was like June of 2015.
They've all developed
Yeah.
together.
And so if I'm able to sort of, they feel like my characters too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly. So we are lucky in that, like, we
Yeah.
don't really have conflicts about that at all,
No.
ever, really, because I mean, I'm a big fan of your writing, and you like my writing too. So I think we work together very well. And also, to be fair, like, we have been editing each other's work for a long time. Just
Yeah.
as long as we've been writing, we've been critiquing each other's work.
Mhm.
And I think that like kind of blew people's minds. I remember talking to people about that when we were in school, because we went to school together, and it like that's just surprising, because like to have that much editing experience, like by that time.
Well, I think it's because we were kind of reading each other's work from that time,
Yeah.
and then we were like, oh, well, I think you could do this or this or this, and so that muscle started to develop.
And then also
at
in
a
the
young age.
in the critique partner side, like, it's not just about critiquing, but also like sort of like the ideation and like talking through problems or whatever. We used to do that a lot, because when I used to have my hair dyed, remember? We used to talk, like, remember 2015, like when we were dyeing my hair, it might have been 2016, and we had just finished watching like Pretty Little Liars, and I was writing book 3. And because like you would have to do it every single month, we would have so much time to talk about our books. And now like we kind of do the same thing, not when we're dyeing our hair, but like we go on walks every day together, and we talk all the time.
Yeah, the walks are not really fun if we don't
No,
have
literally.
ideas to talk
Literally.
about.
Sometimes when we don't have anything to talk about, I'm like,
I don't want to go anymore.
no. So we make it a habit to like always talk about
Yeah,
it.
so that part, like the ideating process in terms of the critique partner process, has always just come easily. I mean, there's obviously like moments where you can get, I mean, I think I'm kind of sensitive, so I think sometimes that your feelings can get hurt. That's what I was telling Rachel earlier, but it's nothing that's like, I don't know, too emotionally damaging. I think it's just like, oh no, I really wanted you to like that or something, as I
Yeah.
think most people would have that sort of instinct.
Right. And I think we also go into like the reading, like with the knowledge of the intention of what we're trying to do. Like if it's supposed to like, we're trying to like critique it to publish something, like we'll approach it a different way in the
Yeah.
reading. Right. But yeah, we mostly have a pretty, I think, solid relationship in terms of like sharing our writing and critiquing our writing and thinking about our writing.
Yeah, I mean, like our critique partner relationship developed as our writer
Literally.
identities.
And we're lucky. I think I was watching one of Chris's TikToks. If you guys obviously don't follow Chris, you should on YouTube at Chris MF. And I think I was just watching one of her TikToks talking about like how one of the best things she does, like I think when she gets stuck, is like talk out loud, like talk out the ideas out loud with like a critique partner. And I was like, hey, like we do that. And that's something that I love to do too. And then in terms of our creative process, as someone's curious, do you have similar creative processes? I mean, besides the brainstorming thing, like out loud, no. Because I don't think.
No, I didn't even know this about Rachel until like a few months ago.
She did not know brain empty.
Because I had to help her with this. Because I think this came from me having a really difficult relationship with my writing for like, I don't know, maybe 6 years. Like even back in high school, it was really hard for me to keep up with my writing and school and all of that kind of stuff. And so the only thing I could really do in the moments that I was creative was to think out my ideas in my head. And I visualize those ideas kind of like a movie.
Hmm.
And so that's, um, I think that's a really big difference between Rachel and me. I don't think Rachel really
No.
visualizes those
I
things.
don't. Well, first of all, I don't really visualize, period. Like, I don't really
Yeah.
have an internal voice. I don't really
Oh, I
think.
didn't know that either until recently.
How did you not know that? Because of the way that my brain kind of works, I don't approach writing the same way. Also, I have developed a lot of anxiety. Like in the time that Sarah wasn't writing as much, I was writing a lot and mostly out of
Mhm.
anxiety. And so a lot of my sort of like quote unquote like productivity when it comes to writing is really just like because of I'm anxious, like and
Yeah.
because I'm like I need to do something, I need to be working on
Yeah, we
something.
talk about that a lot.
Yeah, and I mean I've mentioned that on the channel I think since about last year I've been talking about that. Um and so I typically spend most of my time like actually like writing. Like I will be drafting
Mhm.
because I feel like anxious about like ideas sitting in my head. I don't run through ideas in my head. I used to, which is so funny. Like I used to, but
Mhm.
like I've gotten so anxious. I'm like, I don't want to forget details. Like I need to just write it now.
Yeah, you know what's like I've noticed recently is when I don't have the ideas sort of logged in my mental file folder, that actually gives me anxiety that there's just this emptiness. And the thing is like so me and Rachel are both pantsers,
Right.
but I don't outline, but I in at least in the last few years have spent a lot of time basically coming up with ideas in my head and slotting them in order, which kind of sounds like outlining, except I don't take any notes. That's one of the big differences.
That was another one I was gonna
Even
mention.
since like the beginning, Rachel's always
Sarah
been
does
like,
not.
"Why don't you write things down?"
She never writes things
I
down. Then she's
don't.
like, "Do you remember?" Like 3 weeks later, "Do you remember when we were talking about like this very specific problem, like what we said to do?" I'm like, "No."
No, but the thing is, the reason why I can remember it is because I have the visualization of the scene, and that's what I realized once when I was helping Rachel through a problem in Sunless Ground. Was I was telling her how I keep track of things without having to take notes because she was having anxiety of, well, I have to write it right down right now. If not, I'm gonna get really worried that I'm gonna forget it. And so I told her my trick for me that works is that I have a sequence of events that happen. So it was like this was with Harrison, so it's like one of her characters.
How do you remember that?
And so you don't remember that?
I don't remember
And so I was like,
this.
okay,
See, this is why I take notes.
Harrison's gonna walk into the room, sees the room, walks to the window, opens the window,
She remembers all of it.
walks
I
out onto
forgot.
the roof, sits there, and then et cetera, et cetera. So
That's
I
exactly what happened, by the way.
exactly, and so I came up with a kind of point by point of the images you would see, um, visually, and so that's why I don't find that I need to take the notes because
Yeah.
I've over and over and over again thought of what that would look like and how that would
You
play
kind of
out.
memorize it.
Yeah.
I don't trust my memory at all, and I think it's because I'm very anxious about it. So
Mhm.
that's so interesting. Like you don't ever take like I'm a huge note taker.
No.
But from the beginning of time, like I've been using like my phone to take notes
Yeah.
from the beginning of time. I organized like
No,
for
not me.
nearly 10 years I've been taking notes and you barely write notes.
No, sifting through notes stresses me out because
But I
my
guess you have
notes
them in your head.
yeah, yeah, they exist in my
But
head.
I know a lot of people who write like you, and I just like, I wish I could go back to that. We're working on it, okay?
Yes.
Baby steps. And then Sarah also edits as she goes. Like, I
Yes.
don't. Like, well, I do when I'm writing literary fiction, but because I haven't been writing literary fiction in the last couple months, I've just been writing on this ground. I don't edit that thing at all.
No, in terms of my drafting process, before I continue my drafting for that day, I go back and I reread everything I wrote the day before, which this can actually be very, I don't know, a difficult part of my process because I can be like rereading things and trying to fix every little thing before I can continue drafting.
I used to be just like
And
that,
that's
like in
gotten in the way.
2020.
Well, I used to be like that too when I was younger, but it was even worse. Like it
Mm.
was even slower of a process. But this is quicker now because I think the draft is a bit cleaner on the first round, but still, like that can be like my anxiety that I have when I'm writing.
Mm.
So
Yeah, so I mean, we kind of differ there. I just like the purpose of Sunless Ground. I don't edit as I go, but I do when I'm writing, but probably not to the same extent that you are for like when I was writing Changing States. I did edit as I go, but honestly, like the writing was so good in Changing States.
No,
I
your
didn't have
first
that problem.
drafts usually are like really clean when you're
Thank you.
writing
I
it.
think in terms of the writing, I think in
Yeah.
terms of story and kind of like plot, like I'm not very good at that on the first go.
Me neither.
But the writing masks a lot. Okay, and then we have some fun questions. We had to end sort of round off the last two. This question was who's your favorite original character and why? From like each other. I didn't actually even think of my answer and I feel bad. Okay.
That's okay.
Do you want me to answer first? I have an idea.
Okay, I can go first if you want.
Okay, you go first then.
Okay. I will say that
I
this
don't know the
answer
answer.
feels very crucial. And I think it's maybe changed over the years, or maybe it's always stayed the same. I don't know. But I think that my favorite, oh, see, I'm really like leading up to the to the answer. I think it has to be Harrison.
Okay, that's that is very expected.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say Lonan because for some reason you like him.
Lonan was my favorite for a very long time, but he hasn't really been present
No,
in your writing life for
He's
a
been a
long
ghost.
time. And so, I mean, it's always been Harrison.
He's a
Harrison's
fan
the
favorite.
reason why I encouraged you to keep writing Foster.
I know. I tell that story all the time.
And so I think it has to be him. Oh, I also was writing myself with him and
oh right,
that shared project that we had.
We didn't talk about that so much, but we were writing like together at one point, and then Sarah took over a rewrite of the first book I wrote in the Fostered series. If you don't know anything that I'm talking about, go to the YouTube video and I'll link a whole bunch of things for you to watch to do a crash course on a whole bunch of like autism things. But anyways, so yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, because you know those characters really well. But I mean, I kind of figured that. I just thought maybe you would have changed your answer to Lonan. For some reason, you like him and you're like invested in him. I don't know.
Well, for a few years.
Why though? Like, what's the appeal? Like,
well, he was there in the book a lot.
he was there, not him being there being the reason. He appeared, and so therefore,
when I think from maybe Mothwork on,
oh yeah,
Harrison's character sort of.
Oh yeah. He's the belle of the ball with everybody. So you're not alone. You have to fight to the death. Actually, though, you're the original fan.
I am.
You're the original Harrison fan.
I have 2 H's.
Yeah, I know. I was about to say we have wooden H's. So Sarah loved Harrison so much that when I was 13, I gifted her a gift from him, which is so funny. This is so cute. Like wrote a note for her from him, and I gifted her like these wooden H's. I have one, and then do I have both? I don't know.
No, I think
I have one, and then you have one, and then one of them says Harrison, like everywhere. I have to show it in a video. It's
I
ridiculous.
think we might have shown it in a video.
It is so cute, though. It was like when we turned maybe 14, I gave that to you.
Yeah.
That was so
I had a
cute.
bookmark.
A bookmark?
Yeah. I just wrote Harrison.
What?
On a piece of paper.
What?
I remember one of my first thoughts that I never really told Rachel when I was, after she first started writing in 2014, writing Fostered, I was like, oh, I just wish I could like have his personality. I just want to be like him. I wonder if I'm like the Harrison of my friend group or in my life.
I don't think you want to be.
Well,
Not
maybe
now.
not what has.
Not now. That's so funny. Okay, well, I agree. He's my favorite character that I write with too. But anyways, in terms of characters that I like from you.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, there are so many. I like them all.
I don't know what you're going to say.
I think I have to give this up to Roosevelt. I have to. I mean, I think he's always been my favorite. Remember, like the first time I ever did art, it was like Roosevelt. Remember?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Somebody really liked that art. They were like, "Can you like do that for me?" And I was like, "I don't think I could ever do that again." Anyways, Roosevelt, I love. So Sarah is writing this book, like we mentioned, called Vacant Red, and they live in this whole like underground community or whatever. And so Nell, who is our narrator, ends up meeting this man. It's so weird because he was like so little, like when we first started. Because I've seen these characters grow up. It's so cute. Somebody was like, "Oh, that's so relatable" on my recent writing vlog. Anyways, so she ends up meeting this guy. How old is he? Like 20?
20 something
20
like that.
something. In this sort of underground community, who ends up being her like roommate, and his name is Roosevelt, but he doesn't go by Roosevelt anymore.
No.
In the narrative, he goes by, because his first name is Alexander, and it was always Alexander, so now he goes by Alex. But I'm not calling him Alex. Like if Ashley's listening to this, she'd be like, "Yeah, that's my boy
I
Roosevelt."
actually refer to him as Alex in my mind now.
You do?
I think I'm
That's
sorry to you and
Ugh.
Ashley.
Oh, me and Ashley are gonna have to discuss. We're gonna have to
You've
discuss
already
this.
discussed.
Oh yeah, we already have. But I love him. I think he's
Aw.
so funny. He's so nerdy and like cute, and
very sweet.
he's so nice
Mhm.
that like every single time he's in your book. Oh, but I forgot about my boy Shepherd. Oh,
I was
God.
actually expecting you to say
Oh my
him.
God, I got full body chills. I love Shepherd. Wait, if you like Lonan, like if you know who Lonan is from my books, people who are like, who the fuck are you talking about? Like people are listening to this for the first time. If you know who Lonan is and you like Lonan, but like I don't know, like how can we describe him? He's like Lonan if Lonan was like Hal from Hal's Moving Castle. Yeah. So yeah, oh God, it's so hard to pick because like Shepherd's like queer icon, like he slays, like he has nice hair. He basically looks like Lonan if like Lonan didn't look like a bird. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I mean, I love that for he is a bird.
Yes, he is.
He is. I'm
That's canon.
telling the truth. I was also gonna say Oliver because I've really been enjoying him now that you've been writing him, and he's kind of like he kind of gives me vibes, to be honest. Like not to say that, but like he's kind of cool. Like he has a CD collection.
He does.
He listens to like kind of music that I think I would listen to. Like, anyways. So, but man, now I can't pick.
It's okay. I think
Shepherd
you've
and
explained.
Roosevelt. They've always been my favorites, I think. But I just love the way you write characters. They feel very real. Like sometimes my characters, like I'm not putting that much effort into developing side characters. Like I don't care.
Well, to be fair, you didn't have as large of a cast as I did even way back
Right.
when.
Right.
And if you did, they probably would have felt like how mine feel.
I don't know who your favorite character is, like of yourself. Like
For me?
like your own favorite.
Oh, I think it's Nell, my narrator.
Oh yeah, she slays as well.
She's been there since the
She's
beginning.
so funny, even though like she's not supposed to be funny. Like
And yeah, she is. And I think it's just like her voice is the easiest for me to write.
it's like
I
butter.
find if I'm writing with any other voice, it's so hard.
The last question was, do you ever think about each other's characters or stories independently? And we were laughing about this upstairs because Rachel says no, because this is Rachel talking. I barely have thoughts when it comes to writing. So no, I don't really. But when I go out, for example, I'll be looking through the CDs
Yeah.
at the thrift store and be like, Oliver would like that.
Aw.
I think, okay, and then you know what? I should give myself more credit. When I was at the thrift store, I saw that book and I was like, this is kind of giving Shepherd vibes.
Yeah, and you got it.
I did pick it up. But yeah, I definitely think about them in things that I see. for
Yes.
sure.
I think about Rachel's character. I mean, we were just on a walk and I saw
Don't you
something.
dream of them too?
Yes, and I was thinking, oh, that looks like Lonan. It was a planter.
Oh yeah, we saw a planter that looked like Lonan.
Yes. Yes, I just had a dream with Rachel's character.
You did? What did they do?
Remember I told you it was like,
See, I don't remember you told me this.
it's very difficult to describe dreams because they don't make sense.
Oh.
But it was with Darren.
Oh right.
It might have actually been Jeremiah from
Oh,
not
that's
at first I thought it might have been Darren and his little brother, but I think it was Jeremiah because he was really funny.
I can say at
and
least
social.
at least me and 5 other people listening to this are like so jealous of you.
Yeah. It was really odd.
Oh, like like what happened in the dream?
was like
I can't remember what you told me.
it's
it was
kind of
about.
like these two girls who are maybe from a different planet or something are being chased by somebody and need help, and so they choose 2 random people on Earth that live in like a dorm, and they go and like have to explain everything
that.
to them.
Honestly, someone should write that. I don't dream. So
I've had many dreams with your character.
what?
Yeah.
No, they don't haunt me. So, you know what? I'm not thinking about my characters either. So I don't feel so bad. But yeah, so that's the answer. In terms of stories, I do definitely think about Sarah's descriptions. There's sometimes I'll be writing and I'll be like, I remember the time Sarah used this word.
Oh. Yes, I've been told that before.
Yeah.
That's very nice. No, the same when I'm reading things, I'll remember that word or that you had used. And I'm like, oh, that reminds me of that.
Well, there's certain things I probably wouldn't want you to remember in my writing. I think you can forget now. Like we should like factory reset like ever so often. So we don't have to think about those things anymore. But that was basically our last question. This ran on for longer than it was supposed to.
That's okay.
But it was very fun. And thank you to anybody who asked us questions. I don't know what else you guys want to see in terms of topics. You have to let us know in the
Yeah.
comments if you're on YouTube or if you're not. I think you can leave comments on Spotify. now.
Really?
Yeah. So let us know.
Yeah, please let us know.
Because we're down to talk about pretty much literally anything. And because we're apparently the only podcast, allegedly, about writing that's run by twins. Maybe there's another one, but we don't
I
know.
feel like that's not true.
Yeah, we're
at
just
all.
saying it. We're just using
No,
that as-
Rachel's saying that.
Yeah, Rachel is saying that because I couldn't think of another thing to say as like our jingle.
But we can talk about craft. We both studied writing, and yeah, we did that other episode on verbs. So if
Yep.
there's anything you're interested, or if you'd like to know more about the projects we're working on,
But anyway, so that was our episode. Watch episode 1 or listen to it, I guess, if you already haven't. And hopefully it won't be another 3 years.
I hope.
But otherwise, thank you for listening. Sarah doesn't have social media, so you
No.
can't follow her on anything, but you know where to find me. So thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. And Sarah's gonna say goodbye now.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really glad to be back. I really do hope that we record more than just an episode 2. And yeah, please let us know what you'd like to hear in future episodes.
Right. So thanks for listening, guys, and we'll hopefully see you in another episode.
Bye.